Yes.
One, I'd like to thank you for knowing your history compared to the other candidates on the ticket itself. That speaks volumes to me. In the 80s, Reagan had a 600 fleet Navy. I spent going on 40 years working with the Navy. Where do you see, from your viewpoint, where do you see the military going with China, Russia, and North Korea? I mean, it's like three different foes there.
But I think the other two are derivative of China. I don't think North Korea, Russia, Iran, none of these countries would be able to cause the havoc that they are, but for the benefactor being China. China's buying massive amounts of oil on the black market from Iran. They're buying gas and a whole bunch of other things from Russia. That is fueling Iran's ability to fund terrorism, Russia's ability to wage war. So yes, you need to be able to militarily deter Chinese ambitions in the Pacific, and that means you need more robust naval capability. So I have a plan to get us to 355 ships at the end of the first term, 385 at the end of the second term, and that would put us on a pathway for 600 ships over the next 20 years. And I think that that's a worthy investment because the future of freedom in the world is going to be determined in the Indo-Pacific theater. If China is able to dominate the Pacific, break out of that first island chain, dominate global commerce, they are going to use that power to impose their authoritarian ideology all around the world. I mean, just look in San Francisco the other day. You have these corporate CEOs falling all over themselves to pay $40,000 to sit next to Xi. He got a standing ovation from these guys, and this is a guy that you look what the Uyghurs are doing, what he's doing to the Uyghurs, you look at all the crackdown on dissent and everything. He's been the most iron-fisted Chinese leader since Mao Zedong. And this is something that we've got to take seriously. If you look at the 20s since the Chinese Communist Revolution in the late 40s, there have been more people killed under that regime than almost any other regime in modern history. I mean, Mao, they were killing tens of millions of people with the Great Leap Forward and some of these things that were total disasters. So they've got a very checkered history, the CCP. You can't trust them. And the way you do, the only language these people understand is strength. They're not going to be charmed. You're not going to be able to go in. I mean, I remember when Trump went to meet with Kim Jong-un. I mean, he had no preconditions. He thought he was going to win him over. That's not the way these guys operate. You know, they're hardened. They have certain ideological goals. And the only way you're going to be able to deal effectively with them is if they see, staring them in the face, American strength that they can't compete with. So we'll make sure we stay ahead of the curve with respect to China. So the question on Israel. I stand with Israel. They're a great ally, our best ally in the Middle East. We've got tremendous economic ties, cultural ties, academic ties, but also it's a unique country because that's where Western civilization was birthed, going back to biblical times. And there's no other country on the planet where you can just take out a Bible, read it, and walk exactly where Abraham walked, exactly where King David walked, exactly where Jesus walked. And for a Judeo-Christian society, that's an important thing. And Israel's a great steward of that land. And so it's a unique relationship. We need to be somebody that is supporting them, and we'll continue to do it. Now, incidentally, they don't really need us to be involved in the war. They don't want troops, and we shouldn't be sending our troops. It is their war. We do have a relationship, give them stuff for Iron Dome, all that, fine. But the most important thing they're asking for is just to give them our unqualified support so they can finish the war and win the war. That's what they want more than anything. Biden will say he's going to support, and then they try to kneecap him behind the scenes. Ceasefire, this, that, all these other things. I mean, can you imagine? What Israel suffered was the equivalent of like 30 9/11s in terms of the number of people compared to how small their population is. Can you imagine just after our one 9/11, if 3 weeks later people were demanding that we had a ceasefire against Al-Qaeda and the Taliban? We would never have done that. And I think to myself, like as governor of Florida, if someone in the Bahamas was launching missiles into Fort Lauderdale, we would not accept that for a minute. We would go in and we would flatten them in no time certain. And yet Israel is supposed to just live there with this existential threat, because Hamas, they're not just fighting over a piece of land or anything like that. Israel pulled out of the Gaza Strip in 2006. It is not occupied by Israel. Not only did Israel pull out, they forced every Israeli citizen to leave the Gaza Strip. So you had Israelis that had built lives in the Gaza Strip. They had to leave their homes and their properties. I mean, it was a very traumatic thing for the country to go through. So the Palestinian Arabs in Gaza, they had an opportunity to choose a better life. Did they choose the better life? No, they chose Hamas. They chose terrorism. And why did they choose Hamas? Because ultimately, their main thing is not to have their own state, but to eliminate the Jewish state. And that's what motivates. And so if you're Israel and you know this group wants to wipe you off the map and to drive every Jew in the sea, are you just supposed to sit there and manage that and just deal with it? Or are you going to end the problem once and for all? And I think that they have every right to end the problem, win a complete and total victory. I want to get these hostages back. I don't want to see innocent civilians harmed. But that's up to Hamas. Hamas can release the hostages and unconditionally surrender today, and no more civilians will end up being harmed. If Hamas laid down its weapons, there would be peace in that region. If Israel laid down its weapons, Hamas would launch a war and destroy Israel. So there's no moral equivalence here with this. Israel is valuing life, and Hamas is glorifying death.